Tēnā koutou katoa, welcome everybody to this meeting of the Central Otago District Council. Start with karakia, and it's my privilege to do that today. Ka hori te tahi o tātou, tai te mahi nā mahi I tai o tātou katoa. None of us alone can do the job as well as all of us working together. And that's very apt for a council. We have apologies today from Deputy Mayor Gillespie and from Councillor Duncan. That's everybody. Hannah, do you want to move those? Sally, you'll second that. Thank you. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Public forum, we have none. Thank you. Confirmation of the minutes of our last meeting. Somebody want to move? Thank you, Tamer. Seconded Tracy. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Your declarations of interest, as always, please make sure that you check those before the meeting, that they are up to date, be that things need added or taken away. Do let Wayne know if that occurs, and of course, in any discussions today, step away from any in which you may be conflicted or even perceived to be conflicted.
Would you like that now, or
go on?
There's a my name's written in the paper. Got the,
oh yeah, the
hearing thing.
Yeah.
Oh,
yes, I'll.
Yeah. I think that'll be close to that.
Yep.
And with that, we will come to the Community Board Chair update. Firstly, it's Norm from Tibet Valley. Kia ora, Norm, welcome.
Hello everybody, and thank you for the opportunity to come along and give a bit of the crazy about what the Tibet Valley Community Board is focusing on at present. The things I want to talk about are economic development, our plans for an open space plan, and of course one district, Central Otago. I guess to start off with the economic development, the board has watched with interest how I guess the other boards have developed with the building and commissioning of the cycle trails throughout the district. And we're sitting down in the Tibet Valley, having enjoyed both the Roxburgh Gorge Trail and the Clear Gold Trails being developed as much as they can. And the economic spin-off for the valley has been limited to a degree by the fact that there's an impasse over the completion of the Roxburgh Gorge Trail. And so as a board, we're looking to, I guess, support the closure of that link, or the development of that link, and how we can boost our economic development via the cycle trail in the Tibet Valley. I mean, there's been a lot of conversation around the lack of accommodation, the lack of hospitality services and so forth in the valley, particularly in But realistically, if you look at us trying to attract investors or investment in the valley in those areas, we are going to need support to get that impasse resolved. What that support is going to look like, I wouldn't have a clue at the moment. But we do need the support at this level to get that impasse resolved. I don't know a lot more about it in terms of what the actual hold-up is. I know it's dealing with property owners as opposed to funding for building the track. But so we as a board are looking to, I guess, put some effort into closing it out so we can continue to do the economic development now. We'll focus on economic development in our valley. I don't know whether anyone's got any ideas or feedback they can give me on how that might work for us, but No?
You're there now, Norm, because Tama sits on the Trails Trust, so she maybe have some advice.
I have made notes, Norm, and wearing my Tama Alley private citizen hat as opposed to councillor hat, I will give you a bell and maybe we can tee up a cup of tea between the board and Southern Lakes Farms. Because it'd be great to work together on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's awesome. See, I don't even know who sits on the trust. That's the limit. That's the stage where we're starting from. I know Stephen had a huge influence and role in that. And of course, unfortunately for us, he's no longer sitting on that trust.
It's still very much on our radar, so we can catch up about it. Yeah.
Okay. Secondly, the board has, after a lot of discussion, decided that we would look at developing our own open spaces plan. It started, the concept started from when we were talking about King George Park and developing the frontage of it, where all the vehicles park and there's no curb and channeling and the roads rutted and so forth. So we started talking about how we might get that improved. To the extent that the roading team have gone and priced what it's like to put the curb and channel in. But again, it's sort of like, okay, so is that something the ratepayers want to do with, commit ratepayer funding for? So we talked about it a little bit more and worked up an idea, a concept of, okay, if you're going to do that for King George Park, what are you going to do for the rest of the town? People started talking about beautification of Main Street and so forth. So we're looking at a concept plan that not only this board can guide itself by, but boards in the future. So can use to, I guess, have a holistic approach to any work that is done in the community and funds that are raised in the community. It builds a big picture of a pathway for them. The real aim of it is to move, I guess, the demand of ratepayers and ratepayer funding out into the community funding space. So, for an example, we had recently removed from the annual plan a $30,000 upgrade to the playground. We've taken that on board as that is something that the community can go out and raise funds for rather than use ratepayer funding. So that whole sort of stimulation around accessing external funding, removing the impost off ratepayers is an initiative that we believe will work in the community. And we've seen that happen with our swimming pool. We've seen that happen with our entertainment centre, with our heritage walkways. We have minimised the demand on ratepayer funding, utilising external funding. And we believe that's the way that, if we want to develop our capacity as a host community, that's what we've got to do. We can't rely on ratepayers to fund it. So it's a strong initiative. It's going to take some seed funding to get the plan pulled together properly. It'll take a little bit of time. I don't know. It's sort of, I've seen a couple of concept plans drawn up for similar types of communities. One in the town that I grew up in Townsville. If you go into the Waipā District Council website, they've got what they call the Memorial Park concept plan. And it develops a strategy for the development of what they term as their Memorial Park, which is the equivalent of our King George Park, but we're making it community-wide rather than just focusing on King George Park. There's a lot of interest and motivation to smarten up the main street. Of course, that's going to have its challenges with NZTA. So, yeah. So that's something else that we're doing. And of course, we're all sitting here wondering what's going to happen come October next year. we've had our challenges with our board compilation in the last triennium. I'm hoping that we don't have face the same issue in the next triennium. We've got discussion, and it's only discussion at the moment, around about how we attract more locals to put their hand up, to be part of what we're doing, particularly younger blood. And again, we're looking for support from council as to how we might go about doing that. And I guess that's a district-wide problem. Sort of having the time that it is taking to be a part of the community board now is huge. Particularly if you sit where I'm sitting as the chair. And I was just saying to Peter as before, as you do, you're sitting here with not only one role in the community, I've got 3 or 4. And my time commitment is huge. So you try and pass that on to someone who's got a full-time job and is in their 40s with a young family. Pretty hard. So
Nationwide problem.
sorry.
It's a nationwide problem.
Yeah, in a district where we've got so many young people coming into town, particularly the tradies or the young families and stuff. Roxburgh is growing and the young families are starting to come back. We've got to try and motivate them to look to, I guess, contributing in some way, shape or form. So it's worth giving some thought to. I don't know, again, if anyone's got any bright ideas. And of course, the last thing on my list this morning is districtisation. We've submitted our views, and I don't know whether there's any questions about that sit around this table, whether it's appropriate to have those discussions now. We are concerned as a statutory board that we will be, I guess, struggling to keep up with the demand on ratepayer funding that is going to come out of not only districtisation, but the investment plan that we've got in place. The investment plan in our water infrastructure and our roading. We have no ability to influence or control those decisions because we are so small. We can give an opinion. And so when you take that, that view and you apply it to what I was talking about before about developing our capacity as a host community, parks, reserves, falls, ponds, all those things are the way that the Tibet Valley sees that it can contribute. I was talking before about bringing in external funding as opposed to utilising ratepayer funding to develop those facilities at our capacity. Take that away from us, and we're just going to be good as far as being able to contribute financially. I don't think that and for a community like the Tibet Valley that has an obvious appetite to assist, that if you take that away, it will be the opportunity to contribute through that. I don't think it'll be the right thing. But in saying that, we're all, as Tim's Kanakia said, we're all better as one. than in part, but the decisions in the plan, investment plan, need to consider not only the physical approach, but the impact on the communities themselves. We all understand the challenges. We all understand the difficulty that we are facing with a $340 million investment in water infrastructure over the next, how many years? 10 years? I think we need to think a little bit wider outside the box about how we do that. No public, private equity partners. Taking your update from Zone 6 about working with Otago is a really good start in that direction. It's, I guess, my background is I actually set up an investment company to encourage private equity investment in telecommunication infrastructure. And it worked like that whole concept of, I guess, moving away from ownership in this environment for water. You decide which parts you need to own of the infrastructure, which parts you could accommodate investment in, outside investment. CLT is a prime example, where they purchased the power distribution network, or the generation assets. Sorry, I was thinking raw. So it's not new ground. But there are ways that we can look at, is reducing the impost on rate card funding through looking at alternative investment models. And that's about it from me.
Cool, thanks, Norm. Councillors, any questions for Norm?
No question, but I just in relation to your infrastructure and public-private partnerships, if you look on the Infrastructure New Zealand excuse me, website, they've actually they've just released a paper in relation to an idea to government in relation to that. So there is people outside thinking about that public partnership model.
Yeah.
Yes. All right, brilliant. See you tomorrow.
We will.
And Anna Harrison from the Cromwell Community Board is going to join us by Zoom. It should be, yes. Kia ora.
Kia ora. Kia ora koutou, everybody. If you're ready for me to speak, I'll launch in.
Hello.
Cool. Kia ora koutou, and thank you for the opportunity to speak to the CCB submission on continued districtisation. I would like to, however, note that although I know as board chair I'm always welcome to speak at CODC, and I have done on more than one occasion, I think that when an agenda item includes submissions from boards, that a specific invitation to speak to the meeting should be extended as a courtesy. I'd also like to make the point that the call for submissions and those being included in a meeting 2 months prior to the decision that the submissions pertain to seems like a bit of a disconnect. The CCB is glad that the districtisation conversation is happening prior to the delegations discussion being held later in the year, as it's clear from this current conversation that the move to further districtisation is going to mean ensuring community board voice is considered in decisions about significant projects in the ward is going to need to be set really clearly into the delegations. The board understands the need for further functions and services to move to a district funded model. To make costs more equitably distributed. The board's concerns are not a position that's contrary to this move. The points the board wishes to have considered in the conversation are about the role of boards and the importance of board voice in decision making, and about ensuring that the significant endowment land holdings in the Cromwell ward are managed in a way that maximises the benefit to Cromwell, and that the use of proceeds from this land is planned for carefully. The board believes that this should be something that's driven by the CCB. So some of that sort of speaks to the things that Norm was saying as well, that ensuring that we've got that voice from our community coming into council decision making is still going to be really crucial. The Cromwell Community Board is already noticing changes in the significance of items on our agenda. Our meeting next week has hardly anything on it, but we're being asked to attend a workshop a week later to feed into the Cromwell Town Centre project discussion. This workshop, in my view, should actually have been an agenda item and should be included in a meeting so that the board voice has been formally recorded. All of our updates or discussions being in informal workshops or before or after meetings doesn't feel like best practice, because it probably isn't best practice. So one of the main points made in the CCB submission is the board's voice on major Cromwell projects and the maintenance or changes to any level of service must still be heard with defined and tangible influence. This must be written as a way of working between community boards and council. So the districtisation conversation feeds into what might happen in terms of delegations, and we think it's going to be really important that that is written in that partnership model, that our voice is still very clearly heard, because we're already seeing a move away from this with updates on Gear Ave, on the hall build, workshops for the town centre input, update on the industrial development. None of these are being held as part of our meetings. They're all in informal settings. So as stated in our submission, for the board to truly represent our community, we believe it's essential that with council funds, functions, services and property being managed by the district rather than the ward, boards must continue to have the ability to feed into this decision making. This must be at a wider scope than being consulted with during annual and long-term plan preparation, and a ward-based opinion must be included in reports to council for ward-based projects. The board must receive formal reports so that input can be sought at meetings before the report goes to council for decision. So moving it from just being in those informal discussions or workshops that sit outside of meetings, we think it's important moving forward that these are included for discussion in our meetings. Community voice must be considered and the board as the vehicle for this, and input from the board must be included in those recommendations to council, and that only happens if we're talking about it in our meetings. The use of informal updates rather than including updates in meetings means that these points are already starting to be ignored. As stated above, our other concern is managing and using proceeds from Cromwell endowment land. Our submission states the board has identified that we need a definitive legal opinion on what the proceeds from the Cromwell endowment land that exists in the aid of borough funds can actually be used for, and what this means if proceeds are used for infrastructure in Cromwell, and that the rating for this is applied district-wide. The board expects that it would be party to developing the brief for this advice, and this should include worked examples of scenarios of use of the proceeds of endowment land based on the legal advice given. Representation of the whole Cromwell community, including Cromwell, Bannockburn, Terrace, Lowburn, Pies and Mornings and Ripponvale, should also be considered, as we're clearly one town and with shared community interests. The term borough should translate to the current Cromwell ward, and the benefit of endowment land should be extended to the ward. Of course, we would need advice on that and whether that's possible. The board seeks to ensure that the true value of endowment land will be realised through careful development. The board is concerned about suggestions to sell development blocks for quick gain and considers that developing $300 million worth of asset needs a strategic approach in both design and delivery. This needs to be master planned with serious consideration given to income generating ventures with the proceeds. For example, commercial properties in the town centre and industrial area. The board's view is that it should be responsible for the development of this plan and the management of endowment land and moving forward. The Cromwell ward is unique in central Otago because we aren't a whole lot of little towns. We're not many towns. Yes, there are different parts to our town, including Terrace, Lowburn, Pies and Moorings, Bannockburn, but we are essentially one community. And we are a growing town, getting larger, experiencing significant growth, and this means that the interest and voice of Cromwell must be heard in decision making. The board is concerned that the direction that is being suggested is far wider in scope than a simplistic notion of moving to a district-wide funding model, and encompasses some sweeping changes to the way that community boards function and interact with council. With the range of concurrent changes being proposed, the board's concerned the speed that these decisions are being put through may lead to unintended negative consequences. Undoing those is much more complex than getting it right in the first place. We believe there's still a lot of work to do, particularly to address the role of community boards and providing community voice in genuine ways that feed into council decision making. Legal advice on the use of endowment land for infrastructure projects that will be rated district wide, ensuring that endowment land sales and proceeds from these is managed in a planned, strategic manner to realise the true value for our community, and that the interests of Cromwell at the forefront of this conversation for endowment land that sits in the Cromwell ward. The board, along with the Cromwell community, would like an assurance that representation and local voice will not be diminished as a result of changes to a district funding model, and that the very real needs of a town with a rapidly growing and changing population will be given full consideration by council. From a board perspective, it feels very much like the changes are being done to us rather than with us. There's been a lot of talk about a genuine partnership and the importance of boards and meetings, but the actions that we're seeing don't seem to be backing this up. We're really keen to continue working in a genuine partnership so that we work through these considerations together, and that our voice on these projects is considered within our meetings, not just in workshops and informal settings. The Cromwell Community Board holds hope that as we continue with these discussions that we will see evidence of this partnership, and that the concerns we've raised will be addressed, and that the board will be included in the conversations and decisions that will have a significant impact on our community. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Anna. Questions or comments, councillors? Anything to?
I just had one.
Tony.
I just wanted to check, Anna, and see if you had any clarification. There was just comment around the suggestion that council would look to sell land undeveloped for a quick gain, and I just wondered where that had come from, or if you had any clarification on that, because that's not something that I am familiar with.
I know that in some of the legal advice that's been sought, and also in some conversations that have been had, there's been some thinking about how quickly we can realise some of the proceeds from these funds, because obviously we're looking to use them for development of the Cromwell Memorial Hall, as well as the possibilities of other infrastructure models. So I just think when we, because it might be the industrial land or other land in Cromwell, that when we're looking at it, we've been significantly better off when we've been in development partnerships or developed the land ourselves rather than selling development blocks. So I think that there has been some informal discussion again about what way this might go and how you can realise that the proceeds from that quickly. I think that the board's position is we want to make sure that this is, you know, this is significant parcels of land with significant value, that we are, as a team, as the board and council, looking at this going, how do we maximise this? How do we make sure that we're getting the best bang for our buck out of this money, out of these parcels of land? Because once they're sold, they're gone. We don't have them anymore.
I would suggest that would be council's feeling about it as well.
Yeah, I would, yeah.
Anyone else? Right, Anna, lovely to see you. Thank you for joining us in your very busy schedule.
Thank you. Apologies that I wasn't able to be there face to face. I do usually like to come and sit around the table because you get much more of a feel of what's happening in the meeting, and I'm unable to stay and participate or listen into the rest of the meeting. So have a lovely afternoon, and I'll be sure to be catching up with you at the meeting on the 25th of September as well, because I know that is when the decision's actually going to be made about districtisation. So thank you for your time. Have a great meeting.
Thanks, Anna. All right, that takes us to the next paper, which is the continuing districtisation paper, focusing on the consultation document. Saskia, this is yours. Before we get underway, we're moving from, particularly with Anna, talking about what the end outcome might be like. Reminder to councillors that what we're talking about today is the consultation document. The outcome is the 25th of September, so please don't conflate those two discussions with decision-making processes. Sure, Saskia.
Councillors, thank you for the opportunity to present this paper. As per normal, I'll take the paper as read. I've just got a couple of comments before I take questions and open up for discussion. So this paper is we outlines a proposal to further digitise activities, leaving essentially community grants, farm museums and local grants to be budgeted and managed at the level. This content has been previously discussed with yourselves in workshops, and we have taken papers to the community boards as well. And just noting, we have obviously had two of our community board peers talk to us this morning. The motivation for getting their thoughts early was so that you could factor in that in your decision of whether or not you're going to go and consult. Neither of those or any of our community boards, they yet to see the actual consultation document. So they may wish to further consult on that. So we'll make that clear to the community board chairs as well. So essentially, as me Tim said, what we are asking you today is approval to go out and have a conversation with the community about this. So that's the attached consultation document. Thank you for feedback from the Eagle Eyes. I might see there are some typos that have been picked up within the consultation document. We are not proposing that pools will become pods, so we will fix that. And option 2, you'll note that we had accidentally inverted the figures for Vincent and also for Teviot Valley. So Teviot Valley should correctly read at 645 and Vincent at 845. So apologies for that. That can be fixed if you could give us a privilege to go with consultation. So you do see 3 options in the consultation document for discussion amongst yourselves today. Option 1 is the equal allocation of those costs across the wards, so every ratepayer will pay the same. Option 2 is essentially a differential for the Teviot Valley ward, and this is to acknowledge the fact that they don't have a council-run pool. There are 2 pools in the Teviot Valley that do receive council sort of grants. The proposal is that they would still be charged to the Teviot Valley, and essentially the 3 pools and the other 3 wards would be split evenly amongst the other 3 wards. And of course, as per normal, option 3 is a status quo. So that would be the community telling us that they do not wish us to go ahead. And so on that note, let's move up to any questions.
Thanks very much, Saskia. Sally, a lot of this does relate, particularly when this is 2 of the 3 options kind of focus heavily on the Teviot, or number 2 does anyway. Have you got, I'll open the floor to you, comments first, if you wish.
Yep. Well, I think from the Teviot perspective, we would like the opportunity to hear the view from the rest of the district by including option 2 in the proposal, which would be a rating adjustment for the Teviot, as we don't have a community of council-run swimming pool. So yeah, I think from our perspective, yeah, we would really like the opportunity to hear from the rest of the district.
Yeah, I think we know what the Teviot say.
Yeah, I think we do.
Quite handy to know what everyone else.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other questions or comments? Cheryl.
This is actually with relation to the actual document, and it's on the page that has the 10-year average rates difference each year, and it's in the 2015 dollars.
Yeah, that's with the 3 inches.
What's the asterisks?
Now that again, sorry, that's sneaked in there. Paul and I were just chatting about that this morning, so we will take that out. That's
So it doesn't mean anything.
no, it's been a typo. On an earlier draft, we might have been going to say something amazing about that, but I don't know why we would be.
It was because the Clyde numbers totally out of whack because of the sewage that went in after the districtisation went in.
So what happened actually back in 2015? Did they actually pay that?
2015, there was, Martin, can you remember? You're the only other one who was here then. In fact, no, you're the only one who was there then. I think it didn't impact on Clyde in 2015. That's right, because I live in Clyde. It didn't impact on Clyde in 2015 because we didn't have any wastewater things.
So that should.
But then it did impact once the wastewater went in, which is why that number's not the same as all the others.
So that plus 600 that it says there in 2015 was 0.
Yeah.
So why is it there now when that graph is actually specifically talking about 2015?
But it's a 10-year average in 2015 dollars. So it's a 10-year average in 2015 dollars. So it's not a 1 year. This is not 2015. This is the 10-year average, but it is in 2015 dollars.
But it didn't start until
2023
or something like
But
that.
it would have still been warm costs in there. it's not just wastewater.
So it's just,
Yeah, it was
three.
it's just,
Yeah.
I found that quite confusing.
I think that was why the asterisk is there, and I think it does need to be
Yeah.
noted below that something along the lines of Clyde's numbers are distorted by not having
Yeah.
wastewater in 2000.
Yeah, it was just that I couldn't find,
Yeah,
and I just found it quite confusing.
yeah, that's understandable.
Because I would have thought like you that it was pretty much zero because it didn't include the
Yeah,
upgrade or whatever the figure was. So that's just.
it would have, as Hamish says, it would have included some, because there would have been
Yeah.
a change to the drinking water cost, but not to the wastewater
Yeah.
cost. So,
So
and the other option is to take Clyde out totally, because it is so
different.
different.
Well, I don't know, it's just one thing that was very confusing and I thought if I was confused,
Yeah.
so would other people be confused.
That's a really good point. How would councillors feel by even trying to explain it, we still might confuse people. What are councillors' view around just removing Clyde? Because there's a lot of other examples. The point of this whole graph table, really is to show when we listitized, there was overs and unders across the district. It's not actually to focus on what the actual numbers were because they were $2,015.
Don't forget to take it away.
Well, yeah,
It's either, I think you're exactly right, Cheryl. So we either take it out or we do put a thing below saying this number is distorted by Clyde not having wastewater in 2015. It's a lot of words though.
And obviously, in 2015, actually, that would have been Susan would have modelled it on the 10 years ahead and the predicted time that those upgrades would start coming on.
I think the best thing might be to take it out, and if Clyde residents have a question, we can answer it.
Yeah.
But it's a lot easier to answer it in a one-on-one than trying to explain the complexity of it in a document like that. Is everyone happy with that? So I know we're not been doing this presentation and I'll have that asterisk there to remind myself to explain that. And when you've got, a couple of minutes to explain it, it's not that hard, but from, one line and 2 lines, very hard. So I think take it out, eh? Okay,
Thanks, thank you.
well done, Cheryl.
And sorry, and like, I forgot to mention, some slight confusion around, council taking over the Roxburgh Pool. There is no proposal at this stage for council to take over the Roxburgh Pool. That would be a future decision by the Roxburgh Pool Committee, to ask council to do that, then a decision by this table whether or not, it was something you wanted to do. I just noted that it was in, the chair's, submission. So obviously we have, at that point, clearly across, but it is, in the modelling you've got, there is no money for us to do that. It's a separate conversation down the track.
Which would be started by the pool committee. Get that put out with them. Very good discussion. Let's go out of committee and hey, maybe one day, but not right now. So it's not on the radar. Yeah. All right. Taylor?
Aside from the formal process via the Let's Talk platform, what other ways are people going to be able to access this information and have discussions with us?
I'd like to throw that forward.
Hard copies will be available at council centres and libraries. And Peter, doing a rotation around a number of community groups and meetings to talk to them about the proposal. We'll be doing advertising through YouTube channels of print advertising and social media and internet.
Town hall meetings as well in 4 minutes.
Yeah.
Do we have any information on when those will be?
We do. I have to work through the calendar though. Have you got 5 minutes? Are they?
Okay, so the formal. I know.
They are
Sorry?
in everyone's calendar.
Yeah, they're in everyone's calendar, but it's one that
Yeah.
we get out to the public.
Yeah.
Oh,
I just want to make sure the public know that they are coming when they.
Sorry. We can include them on the consultation.
Look, I think, sure.
That would be really good.
And it's also on our Let's Talk platform and we will be advertising them in the print media as well.
Great, thank you.
And Taylor, just related to why this item is actually not first on the agenda rather than it would be its usual spot, is so that MJ, if you decide to improve it to go to consultation, MJ can get that out of notice board, and that does have the dates of the meetings. Of course, we couldn't preempt whatever decision you make today, so that hasn't gone out yet. But MJ, if we get there in time, we'll do that today.
All right. Oh, Tracy, sorry.
Sorry, on page 31, in the box, under what impact will this proposal have on council land ownership? In the third paragraph, it says at the end, this could include endowment land being used for district infrastructure. Is the word district infrastructure the right word? And then it goes on to say such as Cromwell wastewater. Are we referring, is the implication of that sentence in relation to the fact that Three Waters is districtised already? Okay, just the use of district infrastructure seems like it could be presumed to be a bit broader, that's all.
As I within that ward.
Yeah, but, yeah, it's just, yeah, I guess I understand that, but maybe somebody, perhaps from a ward, more endowment land might get up and say, well, hang on, it's not for district.
So maybe it could include endowment land being district infrastructure within that ward, such as Cromwell wastewater.
Yeah. Yeah, is that okay? Just so that it's clear.
Within that ward, yeah, it goes, yeah.
Being pedantic.
Oh, absolutely. We're all there. That's what we're doing.
In relation to the earlier question of when we're having those board meetings, and we will get this out to the community. The first one is Otago on the all 7, 8 at night. So that's Thursday the 8th. I'm going to go to Tibet Valley on Monday the 12th of August. Alexandria area, Vincent is Wednesday the 15th of August. And then Cromwell on Monday the 19th. And then we will be having an online session for those that wanted to attend, on those that couldn't. And that will be the 27th of August. So we'll get that out so that the community knows about that.
Anyone else? So if we look at our recommendations, which are in the addendum, as A, B, C and D. Now I think C adopts the consultation document. Do we need to, I think just as amended? And just noting the amendment, pods is going to say false in 3 places. The numbers in the graph and status or table in option 2, those 2 numbers need reversed. The dates of the town hall meetings will be put in there and those extra words added on what's our page 31. So those 4 things. So that's as amended. Covers that. Okay. On that basis, I'll move to A, B, C and D. So being container, second that. Any further discussion, councillor? Basis, all those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you, sir. Nigel, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So we have item 24.9.3, July wastewater compliance status up, and we have Louis and Judy, thank you.
I take this report as read. As mentioned in the last meeting, ORC has completed the annual audits for the wastewater sites. Reports for Alexandra, Cromwell, Otago, Vapefree and Naseby have been received, and a summary of the compliance grade is included in the report. For Alexandra, overall the issues discussed in this report are minor, which includes not covering all the requirements of the manual, the operation and maintenance manual, not providing 10 working days notification in case of emergencies, and before opening the geobags. It was also discussed on site visits that it's a good sign when issues with signing is not picked rather than an operational non-compliance. Separately, all requirements of the abatement notice has been met. A request to lift the abatement notice has also been sent to the regional council. A small correction to the report is that the abatement notice is still in place, but mainly we are compliant and it will be lifted once ORC confirms it. Similar to Alexandra, for Cromwell, no new major non-compliances were raised. The discharge to water consent was graded significant non-compliance because of the elevated nitrogen results from April 23 to October 23. However, the nitrogen results are compliant now with all the resource consent limits. In July was the 9th consecutive month with compliant results. And the drinking plant is operating within the consent limit. With Naseby, the consent was graded as significant non-compliance, and the main issues were the ponding issues of the dispersal basins and the requirement to maintain a wetland. A request to the regional council was sent to review the conditions of the consent and we have been advised to apply for a formal variation to the consent. We have also received the rainfall audit report recently, and the discharge to air consent was marked as low risk non-compliance, and discharge to water with significant. So it has not been included in the report because we have only recently received. The reason for the non-compliance were elevated nitrogen and BOD, stands for biochemical oxygen demand. We are working with the consultants to prepare a plan to achieve compliance with the nitrogen levels and BOD. And part of the plan is, part of the plan was the site visit by the wetland specialist by NEVA early this month. We are hoping that we will get the report within the next 2 weeks. Once the report is received, the next plan for the compliance will be planned. Another item was this non-compliance with stormwater management plan. In 2020, with the smoke test, we identified 3 properties that had stormwater connected to the wastewater network, and the issues have not been resolved. However, we have recently replaced 800 meters of gravity main at Vapefree, and throughout the district, many locations were identified, but Vapefree was prioritized because of the new INI issues. We have observed a difference in the flow coming to the treatment plant since the renewal, but more time is needed to confirm this improvement.
So if I can just add to that, I think, that, the objective of the audit is to identify anything. And I think, Joyce made the comment that, the ORC commented on the site, that if they're looking at whether your sign complies, then that's a really good outcome because it's detailed, it's not impacting on the environmental outcome sort of stuff. So, it's been a huge amount of work that's been done by the team and by Phil and Hogan to improve the performance of those sites, and we've certainly made a difference. It's interesting that at Cromwell, with the new aerators going on the pond, we've reduced the nitrogen, so we are continuing to track that because you did recently give it ahead. We go ahead with the nitrogen, there's a removal process plant to go in there, so we'll keep tracking that. We're carrying on with the design, but we will come back to you if we don't, if it doesn't look like that project's necessary straight away now. It's cost. The work at Ranfurly was in the plan, and we're carrying on with that. That's around reinstating the wetlands, so that work will proceed as planned to be. You said it nicely, what happens there is the infiltration vents, so that the treated wastewater gets put into these sort of areas that are like little ponds. And consent says it's not allowed to pond at all, but it's impossible to run a water flow across an area of the ground and not be able to see the water flow while it seeps into the ground. So the consent is an area that's achievable, hence the variation request that we're putting in. So you've got to have the water sit there to drain. Yeah, we're not the consent says we're not.
No ponding in the pot.
It's not a pond, it's a big infiltration bed, but if you put anything on the table, and speaking to Steve away, it's going to sit there for a minute before it sits away, isn't it? It's, so we can't ever meet that requirement as it currently stands.
I think I would agree with Cheryl.
So that was one of the ones I was going to actually refer to. So what's the likelihood of them actually just, because that was, I'm saying, sure, we can just change that because.
Well, we don't really know until we apply to.
Yes, but we have evidence of the infiltration testing in March this year, and the report by a consultant suggested that it would be impossible to not have contact. So we will use that report as an evidence as part of the variation.
Right, okay. And the other thing I was going to ask was just one minor thing that I just need clarification for. On page 26, where it says lots for wastewater treatment site, and it's got down there on page 27, it then starts to refer to the Cromwell aerator.
Oh, yes, so we were going, so when we did the upgrade in Cromwell a few years ago, we took old aerators off the ponds and put in new ones. And we would go and reuse the old ones at some of these sites that had popped up. as it's actually turned out, we're able to get some pretty good aerators for a really good price. So we are revisiting whether we reuse the old ones because they're not as effective, or it might be just better to bite the bullet and put the better ones on now, but the cost of those gone down. And certainly the better ones are doing really well in fact on
the nitrogen levels been compliant for 8 or 9 consecutive months at Cromwell. When can we apply to the OIC for that abatement notice to be lifted?
Because what we are trying to understand is if we're compliant for June, July, August, which is the colder months in the year. In the last 2 months, which is June and July, we're compliant, and we're just waiting for August as well, because the current date to comply with the abatement notice is 31st of August. Yes, next month. So in the excuse me, the sample for the next month is the first week of August, which so by mid of August we will get a clear understanding of how we can approach the situation. Yeah, but we are hoping positively.
Thank you. The questions about the aerator have been answered. I just wondered, ran fairly, it talks about the performance of the in-house tanker still improving since the sudden and abnormal discharge of material back in February. When do you anticipate that will be back running as it was before?
It's more rigid. Sorry,
Don't know,
yeah.
but it's had a substantial long-term impact on our plant.
There's a lot of monitoring between the stages has been going on to understand which, because there's several different processes. There's the in-off tank, and then there's the ponds, and then there's the wetlands. So we have been doing monitoring between each of the stages to try to understand which stage is working properly and which one might not be working properly, to understand where to focus the effort to get the better discharge quality. So I'm not sure where that in-off tank currently is at, but it is very old, and it's had performance issues with it locking up, but because it basically has a big bar that turns around and spreads the discharge across some kind of rocks, and they grow an algae on it, and then that eats the bugs and everything's for it. So if the sprayer holes lock up, then that affects the performance. But I think all of that's been working fine.
I can just add a comment. The issues that we're having with the mock tank is the pH, issues with pH, and we are monitoring, we are regularly checking the pH levels, and that's why we can say that it's improving, but it's not it's not yet at 7 or 7 to 8, which is what we want from a mock tank. Okay. Yeah,
And you know, we don't know whether we'll achieve that.
Yeah,
we certainly get better.
the flow meter at the Roxburgh Bridge pump station. So the flow meter's been ordered and installed, and then there was the issues with the switchboard and SCADA systems. I just wondered, is the flow meter wired and working, or can it only work when we've got the SCADA stuff updated?
We can only get the data out of it. We still push and SCADA. Sure, there's a recording data because we did look at whether we could go down and manually get the data out of it, but it all just gets really complicated. There's a major switchboard upgrade needed.
Perfect. And then my last question was around, and you touched on it, the nitrogen removal for Cromwell, and we're continuing with the design plan at the moment. When do you anticipate making a call on whether that's going to be required?
It'll probably be September, October.
Okay. Cool.
After we've got the August results.
Hey, Nigel? Oh, it's Tim.
Yeah, thank you. Page 24, Joyce, the Otago Wastewater Treatment Plant has a discharge to water consent. It was graded as moderate non-compliance due to some results being slightly elevated. And then there were instances of late notification of non-compliance. They were down to the recruitment of high staff and high staff absences, which have now been addressed. But the slightly elevated issues, that's gone, that's fixed, but Marco?
So
it's only slightly elevated, it could be within the margins of error, and we do see that, highs and up throughout the year. So it could be very difficult to, pinpoint an exact reason why they were not compliant.
Yeah, and so they relate back to, about a year ago, when we were here saying with some issues around, staffing levels. And just, the measures were taken, they just weren't submitted to the OLC within the.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Further questions, comments? So I think the report is an encouraging compliance report and it underscores the value of having this. So that's good. So report be received by the mover. Ian and second Cheryl. Questions, all in favour? Aye. Yes. Okay, thank you guys.
There's something like 1,000 consent conditions that we hold with free waters. So it's a lot of things again. Monitor.
Including the signs.
Okay, so we've got Patrick.
It looks like it's going to be me. Next report.
Okay, so the item 34.9.4 status between Cromwell Racing Lane and Cromwell drinking water upgrade.
So I'll take that report as read. It's basically the same report that you've given every second meeting now regarding the capital projects. So, any questions? I will try to answer those.
Question. This is going to be a quick one. So, I've noted that there have obviously been problems with the foreground conditions, but the report says that the overrun costs are within the contingency margins.
Yes, and the team's working really closely with the contractor on that. We did know that that was a future risk when we awarded the contract and highlighted that there was provision made in the contingencies for that. But while it's within the contingencies, it is quite tight.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
So, okay. No further comments, questions? So, recommendation is to
Just one
Oh,
comment,
sorry.
because I'm really particularly sick today. What's the letters R, A and?
RAG,
Yeah.
red, amber, green.
Oh.
It's the A for amber that throws you off, because it's orange.
I wasn't sure if that
I don't know,
came under
today's
the risk that we needed to
Yeah.
say what it was. Because I asked that at the last meeting. Yeah, I didn't know at the last
You
meeting.
can-
I said.
Can you see that the bottom of the graph is cut off and it actually does have it? See down the bottom here?
Yeah.
It tells you what they are, but it's cut off because of the agenda.
It's in the footer of the
Yeah.
page. Right.
Yeah.
I did, I can ask you.
That's a dumb, sorry, I get the dumb question of the day award, that's fine.
I only said the last one.
Oh, too late.
Yeah, so I was done as well.
So
because that was too W. Okay, so do we have a remove? I'll move. Will be received, we got seconded.
I'll second it.
No further discussion, all those in favour? Yes, carried, thank you. Thanks, Julie.
thank you, Nigel. Tim.
Now we move on to the economic development strategy. Which was, it's an extremely interesting read. Welcome to Mr. Lanham to talk about it.
Right.
Yeah, as always. Yeah, no, good morning. It's great to be here. And the reason that I'm here is that our current economic development strategy, which is a 5-year strategy, is coming to the end of its life at the end of this calendar year. And this paper is really around the process to develop a new strategy. So essentially what I'm asking for today is the paper's got 4 recommendations, which is around receiving the report and accepting the level of significance, noting the update of a new economic development strategy, appointing 2 members from council to act as the liaison to the steering group, and extending the current life of our current economic development strategy until a new one is in place to replace it. And the report that I've put in front of you, in my mind, has 3 parts. One is around the development of the strategy going forward. One is an appendix that looks back over the last 5 years and actually says, well, if we don't take the time to look back and see what we've done. So that's really me looking across the organisation, speaking to various managers around what are the actions that have undertaken under this objective. And the third part is a report from Minter Patterson that looks at the change in our economy and communities over the last 5 years since we developed the last strategy. And I feel like that report is more intended to be used going forward as a really important building block. In my mind, a good great strategy is around being really clear about where you want to get to and how you're going to get there. And the quicker you can work out where you currently are on the map and have alignment and unity around that with the stakeholders, with the community, then you can plot that way forward, do it that quicker. So that's kind of it in a nutshell, really. Happy to take any questions, or I can keep talking.
Two members, do you want me to talk to them? So we have to appoint 2 members. So as Mayor, I asked for expressions of interest, and I included myself, but I disqualified myself. Sarah, Tracy, Tamer and Sally put their names forward. I felt that Tamer, being the community vision and experience, which includes economic development lead, should have that place. Then there was a very rigorous selection process amongst the 3 other fantastic candidates that are also fantastic, that the appropriate process was deemed for the CEO to pull a name out of the hat. And pull Tracy's name out, so the 2 names going forward will be Tracy and Tamer. But thank you to those members who put their names forward, and any one of you would have been fantastic in the role. It's the 2 names that we're going to see.
Thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions for me on that?
Yeah, it's a statement made in the guise of a question.
Yeah.
And that's just in relation to page 70, where we see the different demographics and wards. And Nick, were you as surprised as I to find that Vincent has, in terms of the age factors, has the highest in the 0 to 14 plus?
Yeah, very, very much so.
Yeah.
And that's what I really like about this report. It has the district level and then it breaks down to the ward level as well. So some of those nuances aren't lost. And the report is around sort of just really stating those facts so that when we have the discussions with the community around what does our demographic look like, that we've got it right here in front of us so we can say, well, that's where we're at, where do you want to be? And yeah, I'm very, very surprised about Vincent. So it's nice that, even all the time I spend looking at data, there's a report like this that comes out that has new evidence in it as well.
And the challenge is the belief held by some, particularly in the Vincent community, that it's a retirement village. When you look at the biggest proportion of 30 to 49-year-olds by far, almost 30% in Vincent, the 30 to 49-year-olds and the cohorts under there. It's still there, but this is the youngest population, and I find that I was surprised.
Yes.
Yeah.
There were some really surprising figures to come out of that, and I think it was helpful to have it. Often when we get the census data, it's not always broken down by our ward boundaries, so it was helpful to have that information.
When I first read that, I was equally of that camp, because we keep being told that we're fine, but when you start thinking about it, our major employers being council, Fulton Hogan and Service, who are attracting 35 to 45-year-olds in middle management, senior management roles, go somewhere to explain why there's been a significant shift in those numbers, because there's been great growth in that area of employment. But the problem, of course, we've got is keeping those people here and finding somewhere for them to live.
Yes, and that is yeah, a point that the report also touches on is housing affordability as well. My next step will be to check back in with council in October and just provide a bit of a progress update. In terms of the strategy, my aim is to try and have something in draft. Council can approve and go out by the end of the year. I'm always conscious, so I can be a little bit ambitious. So that update will be.
There was just one thing, and I thought Benji's report was fascinating, like I think everyone. It was quite the only thing the comment that I would make is that in 2.2 challenges for the road ahead, I think he did miss that there was no reference to agriculture, and I'm talking about agriculture and how he referred to it across the boards, is that there was no reference to the significant impact that regulatory pressure is going to have on agriculture across all the agriculture sectors in our district.
Yeah,
I think that was the one thing that I thought was missing.
no, that's a good point.
But other than that, I thought it was excellent.
And I think that was highlighted too, that in some of the numbers that I pulled out, 36% of our employment comes from the construction and agriculture sector. So that would be a huge risk for us if there were to be something come through that.
Yeah.
And then also I noted with interest that visitor spend is 37% above pre-COVID levels.
Yes, yeah, which hey is a great result. So I think the report points to a national average of 22%. So I think that we don't always want to just be looking over the neighbour's fence and just comparing ourselves against others. It is a useful benchmark to know that our purchase spend is exceeding that of the national average.
Something that I noted was our ageing population, our demographic, and we often look at it negatively because we say our population's ageing, but they are ageing. So what's our economic benefit for the ageing population? Because we do have people in that bracket that have money, and what can we do to, like, rather than always negatively think that our population's getting older, what are our potential benefits?
I think you could be saying, if you want to live longer, you need to move to get that.
Because clearly we have them all. But like it's not always. It doesn't have to be a negative. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No, and there's definitely positive benefits.
I'm getting older as well.
Yeah, and I think this is where that's probably a topic that sort of moves a little bit from economic development to community development and things like that. But there is obviously an amazing set of skills, time, and passion for this community that's there as well. And how you make the best use of that. So,
is it possible for that report to be made on our Facebook page that Benji? Just because it'd be really fascinating for any community member that would like to pick it up and read it, because it is.
Yeah, it's already up online.
It is.
And the Central App have done an article about it, and it's been on Facebook yesterday as well. And even this morning, at a business breakfast, we talked about the report and shared it, because I think there's sort of 3 levels of value. Like obviously it's going to have value to this project, but then obviously wider across the organisation, and then to anyone, I guess, within our community that's of interest.
Fantastic, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Cool.
So on that, recommendations A, B, C. So A receives the report. B notes the update on the development of a new economic development strategy, which Nick is currently working on. Appoints Beth and Tracy to act as liaison for the steering group, and extends the duration of the existing 2019 to 24 economic development strategy until the new strategy is adopted. Can I have someone to move that, please? Thanks, Lindley and Sally. All those in favour? Against? Carried.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Thank you, Chairman. Moving on to planning and regulatory. So it's yours, Ian.
Item 24 is the Smokefree and Vapefree policy. David and Gordon
Will you present that?
So we're presenting on behalf of Alex and Dylan both ways today. It's a big kind of us. So I guess this is a review of the 3-year review of our 2021 policy. And I just point out that it is a educational policy, not an enforcement policy, because the national calls down on us to enforce non-smoking outdoor areas. So it's not a punitive thing. There's been a few minor changes made to recognise the changing legislative environment. I guess also the political environment. There's a little uncertainty in this space as well at the moment with the government talking different things about how they're going to achieve smoke-free aims by 2025. So if those things if the decisions that materially change this policy, then we'll bring it back. Now, I do know that the policy, its next 3-year review is in 2027. So if things change before then, again, we'll bring it back. But the policy is pretty much the same as it's been for the last 10 years now, I think. So it's there's reasonable uptake in the community around the sports grounds and things like in our event spaces and things. So yeah, happy to answer any questions.
Any questions or discussion on that? Okay, would someone like to move recommendations A and B? Tamer, and second?
Yeah.
Tracy, all in favour?
Thanks for your time.
We certainly didn't need to change it anyway.
So no,
It represents a certain politician feeling on smoking. So,
And welcome Lee to present item number 2497 and the land information memorandum, please.
Go, Kato. Yeah, pretty straightforward matter for this one, just a mission of mine is doing the P's and charges. But to ensure that the P's and charges were aligned with what council's decisions were previously, but I'll take the report as read and happy to answer any questions.
Any questions?
Thanks.
Nathan, move the recommendations.
And seconder, Tamer, all in favour?
Right.
Carried. And on to the membership of the hearings panel. Item 2498. And we have Wayne to present this item.
It's, I think it's possibly as straightforward as last one. Tracy's recently finished the training for being a member of the hearings panel. Commissioner training, yes. So we'd like to appoint her as a possible member of a pool to the hearings panel.
I'll move that.
I'll second it.
Aye.
Thank you.
There we go. Thank you, Ian. Amazing how fast it goes when we these business.
Yeah.
I didn't. Just jokes, Neil. All right, that takes us back to our extra page and the late report on submission to the Otago Regional Council Representation Review. That's yours as well, Wayne.
Yep. So currently the ORC have got their initial proposal. Initial proposal for the representation review out for consultation. The only change that they're proposing is moving one councillor from Dunedin and adding them to Dunstone, which is this one. And so we've written ourselves a little submission, and so just making sure that everyone's comfortable with maybe not wordsmithing stuff, but where we've gone with it.
What's everyone think?
I personally think it's absolutely fine and I would welcome that. And I would encourage all of my fellow councillors to get on and make their own comment in relation to that, which gives our essentially our wards a bigger voice. So I'm 100% in support of that. and I'll move it unless anyone's got any.
And I'll second it. Thanks, Ian. Yeah, the only thing I'd add is that there is some noise coming from to our west to divide the current Dunstan ward into two, having 3 councillors in a newly formed whatever ward that would include Cromwell, Wanaka and Queenstown, and leaving this part of the patch with 1. I think that's just simply gerrymandering to try to get a bit of benefit up there. There's talk that, hey, it's a big patch to get over. Yeah, it is well recompensed to get over it, and the whole region's their patch, so I don't see that that's really of any consequence. So I think we need to make sure our voice is heard in this, and actually it's just occurred to me now.
Would they not have had to have consulted on that? Though?
They are, that's what they're doing. Well, no, sorry, what will happen is if the submissions gain enough voice that the councillors at ORC consider that, they would have to reconsult because it's not the original proposal.
Yeah, if the initial proposal is accepted, then only the people who make a submission can submit again to the final proposal. But if there's a change to the initial proposal, then it's open slather. But yeah.
And it might impact on their, at least have to be adopted by a certain time frame and get in place by.
I think it's yeah.
Because we got ours done.
We were quite well ahead, so the timing didn't matter too much.
No, well, but then,
but it will, yes.
Is this a submission? Yeah, sometimes, because this is an early one. This isn't one where you can speak to the submission, you tick the box and you can speak. Is that the look stage?
No, you could, if you want to.
Might be handy then with the agreement of the mover and seconder that we put in a deed that we tick the box that the mayor speaks to the submission if it's thought necessary. That leaves it open to me to bigger extra much should.
Oh, that's my email.
If need be, I can do it. If I'm not, then someone else can, like if I'm unavailable for it. So it's actually a few.
Yeah, because the submission on doesn't give you the.
That's a team.
Stop turning my nerves any good.
Tell the end of the.
But you can expect to see a dialect behind the game.
Sorry, should have
so it'll be something that's notes his worship the mayor or Spinet will speak to the submission forms.
Run here, they are moving and second to have that.
Yeah.
Cool. Any further discussion? All those in favour? Aye. Against, carried, thank you. And Wayne, you again, back to our original agenda, page 91.
Yes. So this one is an amendment to the standing orders. So currently, there's legislation in place where anyone who's coming in on Teams or by audio visual means are counted as quorum, which of course includes like a totally online meeting. That's due to end on October 1st. However, there's been subsequent legislation that said if that provision's in your standing order, then you can keep it forever. With I guess the 1st of October movement, it might be quite useful to have that in the standing orders.
Think feasible, given the size of our district.
Yeah.
So we want to move A, B, C and D. Sarah, any further discussion?
Tracy, do you want to highlight what you highlighted in the VCB?
Oh, yeah, so I guess what I brought up in the VCB is that while this becomes the ability, it's not to become the norm, and especially so, I guess for our public forum as well. I'm picking that people don't want to come and speak to an empty table and speak to the little the owls. So it's important. I still think it's really important that we sit around the table, but it does give us the opportunity to have, if you're or for some other reason something's come up. But I guess it is predominant that we sit around this table as a group.
Totally agree. Okay, is that noted? You got those moves and seconds? All those in favour? Aye. Against, carried, thank you. Wayne, you're killing it.
Oh, it's a simple Wayne show today.
It's the Wayne show?
Yeah.
Wayne's one.
No, so this is the remuneration authority determination, it's all already happened. It's just for your information, there. Yeah, the remuneration authority has given the determination, it's unable to be contested, what they say goes. And, but this is really just for your information. But it is really interesting, because you can go down the determination and see what everyone else gets paid as well. No, I'm not saying in this group, I'm saying other councils. Yeah. So you can compare and contrast.
I know, I
If
do.
you wish. Yeah, so that's yeah, so that's what it's interesting thing.
And it is actually, it's, I have had, people make comment to me from the community as to how much people get paid. And it is very easy to say, wow, this is public information.
Yep.
And if anyone wants to know what anyone is paid, it is right there. Positive or negative.
There's still a sense in the public out there that we set our own pay, which couldn't be further from the truth. We're told this is what it is by the Remuneration Authority, and this is what it is. I'll move we received the report. And we'll second it. Any further discussion? All those in favour? Aye. Against, carried. And a very similar theme, 226.
Well, this is this follows on from that determination issue, because some of the bits and pieces come from that determination. It's just a few updates, I suppose you could call it, of stuff. No massive overhaul or anything like that. Just a few changes. Let's see what share of stuff's going to change. Oh yeah, so 3 changes there. So one of them was that there's comment about government support officers booking travel for elected members. But that actually doesn't reflect what happens on the ground, because of course Rachel does a lot of law stuff. So that seems that I don't know, doesn't reflect what actually happens. Nor do we have a preferred travel agent. So there's no point having that in there. And I've added an addition for mobile phone use, because that was identified in the determination, but it wasn't in our policy. And also the travel time, which I'm actually certain not a lot of people know about. But anyway, there's a amount that can be claimed for travel time. But the determination said that there was a maximum of 8 hours within any 24-hour period that could be claimed. So I've added that just for that clarification.
Anything, anybody? And again, very much like the last paper, it is what it is. So on that basis, I'll move it. Homer will second it. All those in favour? Aye. Against, carried.
One. The LGNZ quarterly report. LGNZ quarterly report, and I don't really have anything to say in particular about it. It was just a case of we can put it on the agenda and everyone can read it and update.
Yeah, so this is part of the new, relatively new, it's halfway through now, over halfway, National Council's efforts to communicate better, and as the rep for Zone 6 on National Council, I have been, when this comes up at some councils, they call the National Council rep in on Zoom to talk to it and answer questions. Since I'm here, I can fill that role today if anyone has any questions on this. I mean, it's all pretty self-explanatory. And if not, I'll move it. We'll receive it. Jane will second that. Well, then any further discussion? All those in favour? Aye. Against, carried. Thank you, mate.
Never a problem. Just trying to get Donna.
We're racing. Well, I'll go to my news report.
Yeah, okay.
Whilst who's and Donna are. And I'll remind myself, excuse me, what I was going to talk about. I remember the first thing that's not on the report that I want to note in public is a huge congratulations to our Stallion, who has been accepted as a finalist in the superhuman category of the LGNZ Awards that will be at the conference in August. So a very well earned finalist. Guaranteed a bronze medal at the very least, which I'm currently looking at tallies isn't too bad. But no, this is a very, very well deserved finalist status, given your work on the pool and on the tracks and on the community board and a number of other things. Well done.
Thank
you.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's just one. The other thing that's not in the report that I do want to touch on today, there's been a little bit, it was in the paper again today, a letter that came from Federated Farmers to the ORC that was also sent to other councils. Apologies to councillors if I haven't forwarded, I'm not sure if I did it or not. Didn't, useless of me. It's to do essentially with Federated Farmers saying to the regional council, come clean with your land and water regional plan, and also come clean with the costs of that plan. That plan's due in October. And I think the costs are of great concern to everybody, but we need to see the plan before we know what that's going to be. But there was a line in it that I think I need to speak to, and it said, and I quote, confidential information has been provided to Federated Farmers by concerned district council personnel that suggests the costs will be more than $110 million for just two small Otago towns. For those communities, the cost equates to more than $50,000 per residential ratepayer. That is undoubtedly speaking to Alexander and Clyde, because that is the cost that we've been talking about for some time if we have to start discharging to land. And I underline the if, because for me, I think those numbers there show the folly of having to do that. At the moment, the direction is we might have to, it's not that we do. And that's an argument for another day. I'm just really disappointed that we've been very public with that number. I don't know how many times I've said it, because I want people to know what the consequence of where we're tracking at the moment is. So I was just really disappointed that Feds decided to go down some almost groundswellish conspiracy theory stuff. There's nothing secret here. This is a massive hurdle that we face, and that I hope we don't have to climb over. And when we do see that land and water regional plan, we'll find out, and if we have to put our heads down, we will bring it through then. But there's no secret, that's us. And I was disappointed that it was framed in the manner that it was. Back to the report. Talk about replying to the annual plan. It's always an interesting thing, you know. There was about 150. I didn't reply to everyone. I think there was 3 or 4 that I didn't, but a lot of people came back with thanks. It's really good to have greater understanding. There was some quite good kōrero and other stuff that came from that. So, you know, you can never communicate with your public too much. Along with quite a few of you, I went to the Winter Stellar event on the 22nd, which I sat there that night and thought, you know, I could be anywhere in the world and not being treated like this. It was just fantastic to have Liz Conway playing an original piece to an original movie of Our Unique Skies. Was just, oh, it was wonderful. It was just uplifting. Well, that, yeah, it was all over too quickly. Kiwi Jam in the wee room next door, also with Liz, a few days later playing ukulele with 150 primary school children, was just an absolute joy for the soul. Probably wasn't for the ears of those around me because I don't play the ukulele, but we laughed our way through. Attended the opening of the Wānaka birthing unit on the 27th. Great to hear an ongoing commitment to a similar facility in Clyde. It's been talked about for a long time. I can't wait to hear hammers rather than talkers. Dunstan Hospital, also part of the solution to the after hours healthcare for Wānaka. Small steps on the way to bringing Central Lakes Health Services to the same level as the rest of the country. It was very good being guest of Otago Runaka in Ngāi at dinner with the Prime Minister, the Health Minister, and a number of other high-ranking ministers that evening. And I was in a room with 5 ministers, having Prime Minister and 4 ministers having dinner. You don't get those opportunities as a small town there very often, so it was great to build relationships and have some good kōrero. And the next day at the National Matariki commemoration at Triple Cone was really another incredible privilege and quite an exceptional thing to be involved in. We had Joseph Mooney and Miles Anderson come and look around the Thompson Creek wetlands, and Tracy and Tony were there at that. As we did with Minister Andrew Hoggart on the 9th, where he announced a further $1.9 million in funding for the Menahira Care Exemplar program. And that's really, I think, a large part of that, being in the middle of this alongside Tracy, as a consequence of just how well the Thompson Creek Wetlands program brought town and country together. It was was a really cool thing to be part of, wasn't it? See so many different groups that are sometimes a little bit at loggerheads, working so strongly together. And if you hadn't been out and had a look at that Thompson wetland, it's just something special. And just can't wait to hear those chainsaws start to take out a whole lot of one of the invasive pests that is completely buggering the Manuketa care, being willows, not the trout. On the 10th of July, I had the absolute honour of speaking at the launch of Frontline Surgeon. I was there with Peter. This is a book by Mark Darby, a biographer of Cromwell surgeon Doug Jolly, and I'm most of the way through the book at the moment. This guy was just incredible. He basically, some of you will be of the right age, that you watch MASH, and what they did in MASH, other than the helicopters, came from the book that he wrote from his experiences in the Spanish Civil War. And while we were there, Gray Chatke, many of you will know Gray, he talked of being in a shell crater or a foxhole or something in Vietnam, and one of his platoon, one of his men getting badly injured, and the American surgeon who kept this guy alive.
So it was the New Zealand one.
Sorry, New Zealand medic?
It was. Graham met.
Right.
That to me.
He did? Okay, yeah,
New Zealand medic.
right, all right. I'm never going to name with you on that, it's not a theory. Yeah, the New Zealand medic, he was using Jolly's book, the learnings from Jolly's book to keep that guy alive, and that was just so moving to have this guy born in 1903, I think, in Roxburgh, and in Cromwell, and a chap that we all know quite, many of us know quite well, bringing the two together. It was a wonderful occasion.
No.
As I mentioned earlier, Peter and I went to that evening as well, the Roxburgh Full Committee, and had a great discussion with them. We've also done districtisation presentations so far to the Alexandra Council of Social Services, the Alex Lyons, and the University of Third Age. 16th of July, that was quite an incredible day, being with Peter again at the relaunch of Street Smart, and it was just incredibly moving. As I believe Street Smart went to hibernation in 2018, 2022, and following the tragic death of Kevin Stroud in Cromwell Gorge, Tony Quinn's foundation just pulled $750,000 out and said, we're going to get this thing going again. And the way he said it, we're going to do this for 3 years and then we're going to embarrass the government, into doing what needs to be done. And when you think about keeping anyone alive on the road, particularly young people, the ACC and so many other things, it's not a stitch in time saving 9. It's way more than that, and you just save so much money by keeping people safe on the roads at the outset. But if you hear Keelan's mum, and I'm sure you'd agree, Peter, speak in front of some of his friends and a bunch of other kids who, of the consequence of the loss of her child is, just incredible. And then the next day, being with your husband's actually quite a good driver, Tracy. In the car with him, as we went past 2 nasty looking crashes later in the day. It was just a very weird experience. Attended the mihi whakato for the new Dunstan High School Principal Andrew King. It was great to be able to meet Andrew, and it was really good to see him today at the CoLab Alexandra Business Breakfast, already out in the community getting to meet people so that he can do his mahi better. Also attended the Cromwell and Roxburgh Business Breakfasts, and I did attend the final of the men's senior rugby competition, the Premier Rugby competition, where Alexandra came a brave second. Well done to the Armadillos, but it was really silly. That's me. Take any questions if you've got any, otherwise I'll move my report. Tone is the quickest, so you'll second it. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye. Against, carried. Hey, Donna.
Please, for not being here.
Not at all, we got well ahead of ourselves. Oh, it's yours.
So director paper is being read. So this report is to discuss the financials as at the 31st of May 2024. So for the first 11 months of the financial year, it's an overall favourable variance of $3 million with an overall surplus of $1.7 million. So at this stage, we will not be bringing you any more financials for the end of the year until we do our end report, with the draft being made available at the original risk committee and September, October. I'll continue. So the income has a favourable variance of $5 million. This is mainly driven by development contributions in land sales. Grants and subsidies are behind, and this is more due to the timing of the grant funding, and it's uplifted as a project progresses rather than being uplifted at the start of the project. Expenditure has an unfavourable variance of 1.9 million. This is driven from depreciation costs as well as the cost of sales from Dunstan Park Stage 3. We also have contracts, refuse and recycling and interest expense, which is higher than budget. The refuge and recycling variance is due to the disposal of the organic waste to landfill at the start of the new contract at the beginning of the year. So that will stay. Hopefully get a little bit of a gain back, and our overall variance won't be as high the rest department. Capital expenditure has a favourable variance of $19.4 million, and 51% of the total revised budget has been spent. Once we finalise the end of the financial year, the council staff will be reviewing their projects and to ensure that only the necessary budgets are carried forward into the new year and have a clean out of anything that won't be continuing, and then reassess the LTP. With external loans provided to our communities, organisations had an opening balance of $76,000. As at the 31st of May 2024, there's an outstanding balance of $4,000. So during the year, we've had 2 loans completed, and we only have 1 small one which will be paid off at the beginning of this new year. The council currently has a total, so as at planned external debt of $17 million. We actually finished the financial year with $35 million, but we have come back down to $30 million today. At the end of June 2023, the council had an audited closing reserve balance of $11 million in surplus, of which the district-wide reserves were in deficit by $25.5 million. Based on the revised budgets, the estimated closing balance for the 23-24 financial year was a $2.3 million deficit. Due to the unspent capital expenditure, it is unlikely we will get to that $2.3 million deficit, but it also balances out with the fact that we haven't uplifted all of our planned debt either. So I'm just going to highlight it to you, because as we move through our capital program, especially with our 3 waters, we will be moving into a more debt environment, and we'll need to manage these reserve balances when we're making our financial decisions and managing our operational overseas. So the Cromwell Memorial Hall project will be using the majority of the Cromwell Community Hall reserve balances. So highlighted in this report, it's sitting at $26 million in surplus, with $24 million of that being earmarked for the first part of the build memorial, with more uplift in the debt and the remainder of the project, while we wait for the land sales to come through to pay that debt down. So this is just to help discuss, to shape discussions for the long-term plan, and to make sure that we're actually able to service and to repay debt as well as to meet our debt covenants. Running deficit reserve balances is not prudent, and repayment needs to be made in some form in the future. This can be in the form of development contributions for our growth capital works programs, funded depreciation, and also waiting for the repayment of the debt. Given our proposed capital expenditure for the 3 water space, the funded depreciation at the moment is only covering the renewal program. They cannot the growth and improvement projects outside of the development contributions we're able to receive. Any questions?
Looking at the planning and regulatory 1.46 favourable, and that a large majority of that being due to
professional fees and staff costs. Are we up to strength or looking like we might be up to strength? Which might not be a question for you. Or are we still really struggling to attract?
So we've, very recently recruited in the building control space, which we're really happy about. So we are up to strength here. Yeah. People still to come on. We're currently advertising for a planning manager. So our planning and regulatory manager is currently working 2 roles. So we've got this job out now and hopeful that we might actually have some real interest this time.
Yeah.
And so we're getting closer. We're getting closer. We're still in the planning space up against it a little bit. We've put in place a couple of team leaders. So we've got a new person who's just started and who'll be based in Cromwell.
Yeah.
So we are getting there.
Cool.
Yeah.
Great.
Anyone else? On that basis, does somebody want to move to we receive the report? Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Tracy. All those in favour? Aye, against, carried. Thanks, Donna. Page 277, the governance reports. We'll take the thing to work. Take the July status reports and the Wastewater Otago New Zealand report as read. Did anybody have any questions, queries, comments on any of those?
I do, just one. Yeah, I think there's just one. The, and this is the consideration of New Zealand standard. Obviously it's just a note that I guess, what I put in here is that I thought the submissions that we received in relation to that were very well thought through. So I just would hate for that to stall, but I understand there's a resource an issue. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, we're talking about 4484.
Yes.
Yes, so we are in discussion with someone who might be able to assist us. We're just waiting to see how that progresses, but it's definitely a resource issue.
Yeah.
Well, it's,
Yeah. Okay, that's right. Just their submissions were good, and I thought it would be wise to make sure that that continues on if we can do that.
Anyone got anything else? Someone want to move we receive those 2 reports? Thanks, Tana, Lindley, and Kerry. All those in favour? Aye, against, carried. We've got the community board minutes and the committee minutes on page 354. Anyone got any issues or comments? They are what they are. Does someone want to move that we note them? Thank you, Sally. Second with Sarah. All those in favour? Aye, against, carried. Date of the next meeting is written down here somewhere. 28th of August. Thank you. 28th of August, I know that. And on that basis, I move for the reasons given that we exclude the public for the remainder of the meeting. Thank you, Julie. Lovely to have you here today again. Oh, yeah, I'll move it. Somebody want to second that? Yeah. Thanks, Sharon. All those in favour? Aye, against, carried.
Just if anyone is interested, in relation